Going on episode 18 of In the AM with MC. If y'all are joining us, it might be Thursday morning, it might be Friday, might be Monday, who knows? But it's the 18th episode. We're at it pretty consistently, 2 or 3 times a week. That's a goal. And we're talking sports, we're talking every and anything under the sun. So first on this episode, I gotta talk about one of my favorite players, very near and dear to my heart, his freshman season, where he won National Player of the Year and exploded on the national scene. Zion Williamson, Duke, now playing for the New Orleans Pelicans. He and the Pelicans are going to part ways this summer. They have officially given up on the Zion Williamson experience. Um, what a shame, you know. I think that in the NBA, the NFL, they always say NFL stands for not for long because you don't have a lot of time to achieve your goals, but a lot of players also don't play a lot of time in the league. The average time in the NFL when I was growing up, it was 3 years. Now it's less than a year, the average time that a guy's in the NFL. But there are still, lots of players who end up getting vested, which is great. If you're vested as a professional athlete, that's lovely. But in the NFL, it's really hard to get vested. NBA, you got to play 10 seasons, So that's great for them guys who are, but there's still a little ways for them to go. But as far as Zion is concerned and playing with the Pelicans, they didn't draft him that long ago. Yes, he missed a lot of games, but you see the product. You seen it this season, especially when Zion has been healthy and on the floor. He's just embarrassed other dudes. He just make other dudes look like they don't know how to play basketball. He's that good. Now, where should Zion go? I have 4 teams on here. One team everyone's gonna laugh at, and I will address the reason people will laugh. But first, I have Charlotte, right? I think that Charlotte has pieces that they can trade for him. You have to be careful if you're Charlotte because who's the first player you're gonna ask for if you are the Pelicans? Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller is a sniper, no pun intended. That dude can hit a shot from anywhere. He talked about idolizing Paul George, and it's interesting how idolatry works in the NBA as it pertains to how somebody plays. Because there's tons of people I play with in the park who say they play like LeBron, but they're not playing like LeBron. But when you have professional basketball players who dedicate 6, 8 hours a day to playing basketball and they grow up idolizing this person or that person or that person. And that's what they spend their time doing. They're trying to emulate, when Kawhi Leonard takes 50 mid-range shots, he's trying to emulate Michael Jordan, or he's trying to emulate Kobe Bryant or George Gervin. And you see how it pays off in their game. He had a 39-point game the other day, and it was a masterclass. Probably his best game he's played since he's had um, the knee issues to the extent that he's had them on the Clippers. He had them on the Spurs. There was some talk on the Spurs if they were legitimate to the extent that he said they were, but on the Clippers, there's no question his issues were and are very legitimate, working to change them. But the game he had the other night was really a reminder as to why Kawhi Leonard is a max player in the NBA and why he'll go down as one of LeBron James's most interesting contemporaries. You have Kevin Durant, you have him, you have Stephen Curry, you have James Harden, Russell Westbrook. But when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, a player who has less all-time points than Antoine Walker, right? The likes of Antoine Walker, less all-time points than LaMarcus Aldridge, probably than Brook Lopez. I mean, tons of guys you could be like, there's no way he has less points than them. Um, Two-time most valuable player in the finals for a reason. They call him the Claw. Like he really is truly a one of one kind of basketball player. Um, but I think that as far as Zion and Charlotte, they could be a marriage because you have him and LaMelo, right? The lob threat. It would be hard to justify this though, right? If the whole thing with Zion is his play style suitable for the long term? And with LaMelo, similar, right? LaMelo has missed many games because of ankle injuries. But same thing happened to Steph Curry. I think that LaMelo's just either got to take his rehab and his nutrition more serious, or he's got to get in the weight room. I think Steph Curry will be the first person to tell you Steph Curry's going to play until whenever he wants to because he can shoot the ball from the moon. But, right, the reason that he's able to get through the seasons and play in the finals is because of his work in the weight room. If you make it to the NBA finals, you're potentially playing 100 games in a year. Like LeBron, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but like if it's an 82 game season, right? And you're playing 4 best of 7 series, you do the math on that. So I think that LeBron and Steph and now James Harden a little bit. these guys who are like going the distance, playing 75, 80 games, 85 games, and not appearing to redline, those guys are taking care of their body in the weight room. And so LaMelo is just not doing that. Like he is like a kid. LaMelo's still a kid. He can talk really well in the media from time to time, and he can play very mature on the basketball court from time to time, but he's a kid. And he shows that in his day-to-day preparation. So I want him to go to Charlotte selfishly so that Charlotte can be a decent team again. Because right now, Charlotte employs a player who they very likely should have cut, and it absolutely destroyed my faith in their organization that they wasted their time essentially trying to cut ties with Miles Bridges because he is a domestic abuser. Um, and then they let him sit out, and then they re-signed him because he would be worth less. So I guess it worked for their bottom line, but you still employ this dude, so you still have to tell your social media intern, like, hey, don't post him as much because we know what the comments will be like. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very, it's not even cognitive dissonance. It's just a selfish bottom line decision move by a team and by a league that should have uh excommunicated somebody like that. But Charlotte is currently employing him, and he's the second or third best player on the team, and that's not good. So I think he should be the main piece. If we go after Zion, just trade him, get him out the building. They'll probably want something in the future, but don't give up Brandon Miller. Don't give up LaMelo. Memphis is a team I could absolutely see Zion going to. His AAU teammate John Morant could play. They could play together, right? But I could also see Morant being the big piece of the trade package. They fired Taylor Jenkins, who is a NBA Coach of the Year caliber coach, and he went through all the stuff with Ja when it came to the guns and when it came to the injuries and some of the antics with his father, and he went through all that stuff with them. But it hasn't translated to winning. He said in an interview 2 or 3 years ago with Malika Andrews, she talked to him about who do you want to play, and they said I'm good in the West. That's what John Moran said. And she asked him to double down. She said, are you sure? What do you mean? He said, I'm good in the West, as in he's not worried about anybody he has to play. Not only is that arrogant, but you should be a little worried, like you should be maybe a little worried about Nikola Jokic. You should be maybe a little bit concerned about SGA and the barn burner that they have going on in Oklahoma City. But yeah, maybe Memphis. I could see Ja being the piece that they trade around, but I could also see him being the piece that they keep. They'll probably ask for one of Desmond Bane or Triple J. We'll see. I think Bane is the better piece long term. I would ask for Bane if I was the Pelicans. But he may be a little bit too similar to a Jordan Hawkins because they already have Trey Murphy, they already have Jordan Hawkins. Herb Jones is like a 39, 38% three-point shooter. But yeah, they already have some guys who can really put the ball in the cup from range. So I don't know if they necessarily need Desmond Bane, but what's really unique about Bane is he can play the point guard position. I feel like that's not talked about enough or utilized enough. A lot of the time, while John Morant was out, Bane really was the lead guard. Um, and Tyus Jones is incredibly Tyus and Trey Jones. They're both incredibly underrated. They both lead the league in assist to turnover ratio next to Chris Paul, who's really still doing the thing at 40 years old. Houston is everyone's gonna laugh at that one because Zion notoriously got into it. He has some things going on, and people are saying he needs to go to a city not like New Orleans where these things won't happen to him. And it's very possible if he comes to Houston, the exact same things will happen to him again. So I think on a personal level, he probably doesn't want to get traded to Houston. It's really hard for the NBA players to have self-control because they have money and they go to like so many different places. So a lot of them, like, you have to think like, what are some of them paying for? Like, yes, some of them are paying for like unspeakable things. I'm talking about like privacy, right? Or like certain experiences, or to not be in the middle of paparazzi or not be like on the side of the street in everybody's video. Some players aren't like that, but a lot of players are. That's been confirmed as a fact. That's not like news. And so you do have to consider like how off the court things might affect on the court things for any player. And so I think for him going to Houston might not be the best idea. But the last city is San Antonio because San Antonio is a little bit slow. Food's not great, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And I think that him and Wemby and Stephon Castle, like that's just scary to think about. but on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Stephon Castle's a matchup nightmare. He is a decel step nightmare, and he's a young player. They have so many young players. They're gonna have to give up Vassell. Probably they'll keep Chris Paul, but how many more years is he gonna play, right? Like I say, he's about 40 years old. I think the only reason he's going this far is his sheer love of the game. Chris Paul is a real a-hole because he loves basketball so much, but he's like, he's a little bit wired. And he also, I believe he's a vegan. So, those kinds of things do matter when you're running up and down the court 1 trillion times. KD is also gone this summer. Reports say Matt Ishbia has said many times he wouldn't get rid of Kevin Durant, right? But it's the writing's on the wall. He has to get rid of Kevin Durant. They've gone through multiple coaches at this point in time, and there's been no winning. The thing is, do you get rid of Kevin Durant or do you get rid of Bradley Beal? Why would you keep Bradley Beal? He's not doing anything for your team. Uh, well, I'll tell you why. It's a no trade clause, right? But if I'm Ishbia, I go to Beal's agent and I say, hey, get him to waive this because some of the players they are in the room for negotiations. This is a different sport, obviously, but Lamar Jackson is was infamously and is infamously his own agent. He makes his own negotiations, and he had to negotiate the 5-year, $260 million contract that reset the market that teams didn't want to give him, including his own after he won MVP. And so sometimes there needs to be a barrier between the players and the organization because what the organization truly thinks of these players will break their hearts. They're like, why would you speak about me like this? They look at them a certain way and they'll talk about them a certain way. And so that's really why teams enjoy having access to the agents. That's why Drew Rosenhaus is the most lucrative man in America. I mean, I think he represents like 57 of the top 65 earning NFL players, which is a mind-boggling stat. And even if Rosenhaus has somebody else as that person's handler day-to-day agent, he's clearly represented because it says at the bottom, Tyreek Hill, represented by Drew Rosenhaus. Abdul Carter, represented by Drew Rosenhaus. He's eating. He's eating. KD should definitely consider going to the Mavericks. Him and Kyrie Irving have phenomenal chemistry together. Easy to get Klay Thompson the ball. I believe they play together on a couple of USA teams. I would like to see him go to the Wizards. I think that Bub Carrington made a great case that we're still here, we're still established. We just traded all these people. It doesn't matter. You can take or leave Chris Middleton, but I think that him and KD together add a nice complexion of heavy two, moderate 3-point basketball and veteran basketball, right? Chris Middleton's a champion. There was times where people were calling Chris Middleton the Batman to Giannis Antetokounmpo's Robin. Chris Middleton's a champion. So I think the Wizards could be cool. KD himself has said the reason I haven't been traded and the reason I haven't been traded to these places is because I cost too much. He has said that. He's correct. So I would love to see what the Wizards really can give up and do give up if they take a run at him. But he's a hometown guy. He's gonna want to play for them. I think he's in the final chapter of his career. So I think he wants to end somewhere. Like I truly think he thought he was gonna end his career in Phoenix because they were just coming off of a finals appearance and it's just not materialized. So the final team I can see him playing for is Miami. The Heat culture thing, I think he likes to buy into that. KD at his heart is like the AAU basketball player that shows up to play 3 games at 7 a.m. and is drinking one of these little Gatorades, and then he's eating orange slices at 1 p.m. Like that's who KD is. He just wants to play basketball and all the other stuff is secondary. And I think Miami's culture warrants that. Hero and Adebayo together are a really promising and enticing duo. I think it's about over for Duncan Robinson. I'm not just saying that because he's an Exeter guy. I think it's over for him. I think he is a great shooter, but not enough of the time. He was doing some damage to the Lakers in that 2020 finals, but he doesn't do it enough of the time. And he is a cone on defense. He's admitted that 1,000 times. So you have to probably move him for somebody to be in contention. But just imagine the length on defense if you have Ware at the 1, Adebayo at the I'm sorry, Ware at the 5, Adebayo at the 4, Durant at the 3, Hero at the 2. Does not matter who's at the 1. Maybe Terry Rozier, who's a better player than I think people give him credit for. But yeah, KD, consider going to Miami, my boy. I don't know. Deep in his soul, he probably wants to go to New York, but the Knicks are crowded right now, and he's not going to go play for the Nets again. He already been there, done that. But I think all of those teams are pretty likely for those two guys who will both be available this summer. We have the situation with Nico. I'm gonna mispronounce the brother's name, but I think it's I am Leva, and his brother Madden. So this situation, to my understanding, right? Overtime sports, the irreparable harm that you have done to sports will never be, um, you know, quantified because 7-on-7 football, you have guys who are wearing like raccoon caps and wearing like pajama pants, and they're throwing touchdowns and like doing backflips. And then you look at the score, and their team's actually down by 40. But what people take away is just that clip I just mentioned. They don't give any press to the team that scored 40. They don't show how the other team scored 40. And the team that scored seven might have a higher ranked prospect on it. And so it doesn't matter if you're the team that scored 40, unless you go to the finals of a big time tournament like overtime seven elite. Nico I was one of those kids who I just mentioned who had all the kind of the get up stuff on. And he was a 5-star player. And I think the talent is there. I'm not trying to take away from the fact that he has talent. A lot of these guys do have talent first, and that should always be considered and appreciated. But he goes to an SEC school. That used to mean, right, that you're gonna be on the bench and then you earn your way and you have these rivalries. I mean, you're playing quarterback at the same college that Peyton Manning played quarterback at. And so you have to consider the legacy that's there. And you have to be in college, at least in my opinion. I think college, as far as all levels of sports go, I have not been a professional athlete, but stopping at college, right? Because thinking about college, high school, middle school, all that stuff, AAU, I think that college is the level that is most a meritocracy. I think people respect the hard work that you put in, and then they're like, all right, like I'm gonna respect this person. And then you have to earn their respect by putting some kind of work in. Um, and at the SEC level, that looks like victories. What victories has Nico contributed to at the helm of the team that are significant? If you're a Tennessee fan, you might revel in the fact that you guys made the 90 team playoff in the first year that they did all these teams in the playoff. But I mean, you know, what has he contributed to on their team? Realistically, like, it's a real question because he was asking them for $4 million+ to play quarterback. And he didn't, he was already earning a lot of money. Um, and he's the face of the team. You're the face of a team in the SEC town in Knoxville, Tennessee. Players don't take that for granted. Guys in Gainesville don't take that for granted. Guys in Tuscaloosa don't take that for granted because they know that you're a superstar, you're a celebrity, you're already what you dream of being. You're already a millionaire. You're already the starting quarterback at an SEC school. How can you drum it up better? You know? And these guys are being greedy. I don't know if it's just him or if it's his representation. It clearly seems to be his representation as well. And I can't speak for his own personal thoughts. And multiple things can be true at once. He might have had gripes with the coaching staff at Tennessee. That doesn't make it okay to then try to stiff them out of multiple more $1 million that you already signed. What about the books? What about the lot? Can he tell me the name of the library at Tennessee? If he could tell me the name of the library at Tennessee, I'll get off the brother back because this is a this is a way he's treating the situation that for me it's like it's hard to sleep with yourself. It's hard to sleep with because you're seeing these guys, you're looking these guys in the face and y'all 40-50 million dollar locker room talking about, yeah, guys, it's blood, sweat, and tears. Like I said, a lot of sweat equity, a lot of meritocracy kind of stuff. And yeah, you're the starting quarterback, and the headline says you're the leader, but they're watching you mosey on out of there for a couple more $1 million you felt like you were entitled. And these guys are coming in and out the door, in and out the door, in and out the door. It's so hard to keep track. And so he and eventually goes to UCLA for multiple million less dollars than he was going to or initially get at Tennessee. And then, yes, more $1 million less than he was going to ask for. Okay. UCLA already had 7, 8 quarterbacks on their roster last year. I don't know how many they currently have on their roster, But what I do know is you now have to win over this new locker room of guys with more sweat equity and this meritocracy. And that UCLA has invested a lot in the coach Deshaun Foster not failing. They've invested a lot into that school. People don't sit here and like think about in real time the impact that winning has on a place's economy. Think about Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. The winning that she has done in the state of Indiana has has helped their economy so much. In the state of Iowa has helped their economy so much. That's just off her bouncing the basketball and throwing it in a cup. And so these people are going. I mean, Texas is a great example. UT makes so much. UT and Texas Tech and all of these brands are so good for the state economy and for the school economy, and it's a trickle down. And so with Nico, right? He goes to UCLA for multiple less million. The coach at, I mean, the quarterback at UCLA, Joey Aguilar, who was at App State, transfers to Tennessee, and Nico's brother Madden, who was an early enrollee at Arkansas, leaves Arkansas to go to UCLA. I don't mind people getting paid. I don't. I do not. I was the first person in all them English classes doing that presentation. I know people were tired of me. They were like, "We get it. You guys want to get paid, blah, 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 blah." That's not what this is about. This is about all the stuff I mentioned before, about honoring commitments and about, I mean, his brother Madden, he signed and he enrolled early in January. And to me, it's like, again, enrolling early used to mean different stuff. Like that was so like to my junior year, that's the first time I heard of somebody doing that. And it was somebody we played against. And we were just like, dang, like that is so cool. Like he's really in the mix. Like he enrolled early. He in the spring game. Like he a freshman, but in the fall, but he's seasoned and now he's in the game. It's cool. And you gonna enroll early as a quarterback. And why do quarterbacks enroll early? Oh, I want to learn the playbook. Oh, I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger, right? Bryce Underwood at Michigan. That's the stuff they talk about. And you gonna enroll early to leave, to join your brother to sit the bench behind your to voluntarily sit the bench behind them. You're in a competitive quarterback situation and you transfer somewhere where you know you're not going to start. That also, why does that not ding any bells off for UCLA? I wouldn't take them if that's part of the Nico package. I don't want the Nico package because why is your brother willingly coming to a situation where he's not going to play? You're not going to play over him, and they seem to be two recruiting classes apart. So I think he's trying to set it up, for him. Good luck. Good luck with this portal stuff. Good luck because what you think you know one day, you don't know the next. And that's just the case. That's just the case nowadays. The New York Giants have signed Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson at quarterback and have also signed Jameis Winston, Mr. Crab Legs at quarterback. So it seems like we're a little bit set at the position. I have drawn up a little mock draft situation here. The draft starts tomorrow from us recording this, which is Wednesday, April 23rd. Draft comes out tomorrow or starts tomorrow. Um, as I was going through this, I really think the New York Giants can become a 10-win football program next year if we go through with these picks and if we put these guys in the best situation to succeed. So, first and foremost, with the third pick, the New York Giants select either Shadeur Sanders or Abdul Carter. Shadeur Sanders' route chart came out on Twitter. His success by route, 64% on a non-route. Mr. I can't throw deep. 64% on the non-route. That'll work in the NFL. It needs to be a little higher, sure. But 64% on a non-route, as long as that 37, that's bad math, Michael. As long as that, as long as that 36 is not interceptions, no problem with that 64. 80% on the corner, 71% on the post. 88% on the dig, 80% on the out, 97% on the curl, 76 on the slant, 98 on the screen, 96 on check down, 100% on flat. The only route he can't throw is the comeback. The comeback route is really difficult to throw. Um, Don't put the comebacks in the offense. It's really simple. Just don't just don't put them in the offense. I think that's the route that any DB would tell you. Any DB with extra gear speed would tell you he's happy to see. Don't put it in the offense. Shadeur can throw the football. He can handle New York media. Abdul Carter is a athletic freak, and edge rushers don't grow on trees. You're already paying Brian Burns 20 plus $1 million to be a high caliber edge rusher. And I think in the first year, I'll give him an A minus or a B plus. I think he did a solid job. Give him help. Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter together will push each other. And um he can drop into coverage because Abdul Carter started as a backer. He can drop into coverage. Better than Kayvon Thibodeau. You know what I'm saying? Better than Aziz Ajulari. He could drop into coverage. Second round, 34th pick. Give me Donovan Jackson, Ohio State offensive guard. This may be too low or too high for Jackson. There's a lot of conflicting reports because the fact of the matter is, I think Donovan Jackson will be a safe pick for whoever picks him. He is a technically sound football player who has reps at left guard and left tackle, who led a deep unit, who earned the respect of all the guys on the team, and who has played with some real deal quarterbacks, who's played in some real deal systems. Carson Schwezinger from UCLA, third round, 65th pick. This seems to be a little bit low for Schwezinger, but everybody can't get picked high, you know? Everybody can't get picked high. It's just a fact of the matter. And some teams are going to trade up for guys that they think are already being slept on. I think this is a guy who ends up slipping through the cracks to the third round, and that the Giants pick him up before everybody realizes what they've done. I could also see the Giants trying to get Jahad Campbell if he slips to the top of the second round at that 34th pick, because Jahad Campbell is a freak, and having him with Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke, those are some backers. Quinshawn Judkins, third pick, 99th overall. I see Judkins as a versatile football player who just does the right thing on the football field, but is also just a little bit of a screw loose kind of dude that you need. And with him and Tyrone Tracy complementing each other, I like to look at that. Nick Nash is my fourth pick. I could see Nash starting in the Brian Daboll offense. He used to be a quarterback, so he's super smart at football. He understands football. San Jose State, he should have been the Biletnikoff winner, in my opinion. Sorry, Travis Hunter. Now, as far as these fifth round picks go, I think that the New York Giants can trade for a new fifth round pick if they get rid of Jalen Hyatt. Nick Nash will clearly replace Jalen Hyatt. He'll take any snaps that Jalen Hyatt hopes to get, and he'll be like a combo of Jalen Hyatt and Isaiah Hodgins as far as role is concerned. With that fifth round acquisition, I believe you get rid of Jalen Hyatt, you send him to the Seahawks, a team that would appreciate his services, would appreciate his downfield services. They just lost two of their receivers. So, and they already have Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I think that they would like the idea of like some young guys, probably be high on Hyatt. And we would trade our seventh round pick, or yeah, we trade our seventh round pick in Jalen Hyatt to the Seahawks for their fifth round pick, which is the 172nd pick. So I believe we get CJ West and Jalen Smith, D line and corner. These are both positions that we are good at, but we're shoring up. The cornerback, the secondary room overall is looking very competitive. But get a guy like Jalen Smith, who's rangy, who's kind of like a pit bull, get him in the room. And then CJ West, very underrated. Run stopper, big, strong dude. Get him with Dex a little bit. I think we have Elijah Chapman still. That's a guy that I'm pretty have some faith in like playing. I wouldn't be mad if he got snaps, but CJ West, I watched him do mean stuff to the University of Michigan, as a lineman for Indiana. So let's get him. We pick seventh for the Seahawks. We get them Desmond Evans. And then our final pick of the draft, the 246th overall pick for me would be Justin Barron, linebacker out of Syracuse, a guy that stayed, right? If Fran Brown comes in and you hear he's coming in and he's as authentic as he is, he's from Camden, New Jersey, right? He doesn't sugarcoat anything. Can't Fran Brown doesn't. And he gave his team that mentality. Kyle McCord comes in. It's a real operation. They actually got a guy from us, uh Witherspoon, left guard. They got him from Howard. And they got dudes coming in from everywhere. If you're Justin Barron, where do I fit in? Right where I want to fit in. Justin Barron started as a wide receiver, and he had plenty of offers to play receiver. I'm not sure if he played receiver out of college. He probably did, but I mean, out of high school, he probably did. But we played him. We played him in high school in the state game, and I still have this clip in my phone. I'm sorry, Tolo. My boy Larson, great dude, man. Shout out Tolo. He played safety, and he's kind of like looking at the play. He's like moving, looking at the play. He's moving. And Justin Barron come at receiver. He was already a big dude. He was a sophomore. We were seniors. Justin Barron was about 6'1", 195 at the time. Now he like 6'3", about like 240, 230. He was like 6'1", 190. He was mean. And he just sealed Tolo, and it was an outside run. He just sealed him, and he took his head off. Like Larson didn't see him. And that's just indicative of the kind of player he is. I think the Giants could get a lot out of him, whether it be on special teams or maybe even as a rotational piece. He'll get his nose in there. As a linebacker, that's really all you need to do. He'll get his nose in there and he won't give up ground. This is the 18th episode of In the AM with MC. The New York Giants, I'm being honest with y'all, I'm being serious. You can keep my fandom. But let's draft serious this time around. I told a bunch of kids today about when I was a freshman in college and y'all drafted Daniel Jones. Let's not do that again. So let's be serious, okay? But this is the 18th episode. Thank y'all for rocking with us. Hope your team drafts who you want them to. Let me know down below who it should be. Deuces.